The sun was warm above the small village field. Children were running, laughing, and chasing one another as if the world had no problems. Their voices filled the air, echoing with pure joy. Their shadows danced across the dusty ground. But not everyone was laughing. At the edge of the field stood an alien girl, her skin faintly marked with soft glowing patterns. Her silver eyes followed the children with quiet longing. Her hands were held close to her chest as if she was afraid they might betray her feelings. She wanted to run. She wanted to laugh. But no one called her name. She stood alone, like a shadow watching the light. The villagers noticed her, but they did not welcome her. Whispers passed from mouth to mouth. Some shook their heads, others turned away. Some parents pulled their children closer, warning them with a look. They said she was different, cursed by her bloodline, and dangerous to be near. The girl heard them. Though they thought she did not, every word cut her deeper. She lowered her head and stared at the ground, pretending not to hear, pretending not to care. But her heart was breaking on the far side of the field. A human worker leaned against a wooden post. He had come to the village to help repair tools and teach new methods for farming. He was not from here, and so he was treated as an outsider, but not unwelcome. The villagers respected his skills, and he often stayed quiet, listening more than speaking. Yet on this day, his eyes were not on the laughing children. His gaze was fixed on the girl who stood apart. He noticed the way she clutched her hands, the way her lips trembled, the way her eyes sparkled not with joy but with unspoken pain. He wondered why no one invited her. Why was she standing alone when the game had enough room for all? The ball rolled close to her once. The children stopped, their eyes watching. For a brief moment she looked at the ball, her heart pounding. She could kick it back, she could smile, she could join, but then the children laughed, not kindly but cruelly. They laughed as if she did not belong, as if her touch would spoil the game. Her hands froze. She stepped back, letting the ball rest in the dirt until one of the children came to snatch it away. Their laughter grew louder, and she looked down. The human felt anger stir inside him. He did not know her story. He did not know why she was shunned. But he knew the look of loneliness. He had seen it in war zones, in orphaned children, in refugees far from home. It was the same look, the same silence, the same hunger, not for food but for belonging. The girl turned away from the children and walked toward a patch of wildflowers growing at the edge of the field. She knelt quietly and began picking the tiny blooms. Arranging them in her hand, her motions were slow, careful, as if she was trying to pretend she was busy, pretending she had chosen solitude. But her shoulders shook, and when the sun struck her cheek, a single tear glistened before she quickly wiped it away. The human's chest tightened. He looked at the villagers, wondering if they did not see, or if they simply refused to care. Their eyes passed over her as if she were invisible, a ghost in daylight. The field was full of laughter, but in her corner, silence ruled. The human shifted his weight. He felt something heavy in his chest, a question echoing. Should he speak? Should he step forward? He clenched his hands, reminding himself he was only a guest here, not a hero, not someone who should interfere. And yet he could not turn away. The girl lifted the flowers to her face and tried to smile, but her lips shook too much. She pressed the flowers tight against her chest as if they could comfort her, as if they could shield her from the world that rejected her. The human saw this and knew deep inside. That silence was no longer enough, but before he could move, a voice called his name from the other side of the field. One of the villagers waved, asking him to help with the tools. He hesitated, torn between duty and compassion. His eyes flickered back to the girl, who stood alone with her fragile bouquet of flowers. She looked so small, so breakable, yet there was something strong in her too, something that refused to vanish no matter how many times she was ignored. The human turned slowly, walking toward the villagers, but his mind was elsewhere. His steps felt heavy, his heart restless. Something was beginning, though neither he nor the girl yet understood it. In the middle of laughter and cruelty, one seed of kindness was ready to take root, and the girl, though she did not know it yet, was about to find a reason to smile. The next day the field was full again. Children laughed, parents gathered near the stone benches, and traders passed by selling fruit. The air smelled of roasted bread and sweet herbs. But the alien girl stood once more at the edge, quiet as a shadow. She clutched the small flowers she had picked earlier, now wilted but still precious to her. Her eyes followed the children with the same longing. Though she tried to hide it, The whispers began again, sharper this time. "She should not be here," one villager muttered. "Her bloodline is cursed. Keep your children away," another warned. "Her mother's shame will follow her." The words moved through the crowd like smoke. Some shook their heads with pity, others with anger, but no one invited her to play. The girl lowered her head, pretending she could not hear. But every word struck her heart. Her hands tightened on the flowers until the stems broke. The human worker stood nearby, carrying tools on his shoulder. He had come to help repair the broken well at the far end of the village. But his eyes drifted again and again toward the girl. He could not stop watching her. He caught the whispers too. He heard the cruel words. He saw the way the parents pulled their children back whenever she came too close, as if she carried a disease, but he also saw the truth. She was only a child, lonely and tired. Her shoulders sagged not from evil, but from rejection. He clenched his jaw. He remembered what he had seen in other lands, children abandoned because of their race, their birth, their past, always paying for sins they never committed. And here, in this quiet alien village, the same cruelty lived. The girl bent down to pick another flower. Her fingers shook. She whispered something to herself, too soft for anyone to hear. Perhaps it was a prayer, perhaps a wish, but her lips trembled and her silver eyes glistened. Two boys kicked a ball high into the air. It bounced close to her again, rolling to her feet. For one heartbeat, the world held still. She stared at the ball, her hands twitching. Her heart screamed to join, to touch, to belong. "Don't you dare!" one of the boys shouted. His voice was filled with scorn. "Don't touch it," the other children laughed. Parents turned their faces. Some smirked, some shook their heads. The girl froze, her eyes dropped. She nudged the ball gently away with her foot. Pushing it back toward them, the laughter grew louder, crueler. The human's chest burned with anger. He dropped his tools against the stone wall. The sound made a few villagers glance at him, but he did not care. His eyes locked on the girl. She tried to walk away, but her path was blocked by whispers that followed her like shadows. "She does not belong. She should stay hidden. She brings bad luck." Every voice felt like a knife. Cutting deeper into her heart, the human stepped forward. His boots crunching on the dirt, a few villagers noticed. Their whispers shifting toward him now. Why is the human watching her? Outsiders should stay out of our matters. He should not interfere, but he kept walking, slow and steady, his gaze never leaving the girl. She stopped near the edge of the field, her flowers falling one by one from her trembling hands. She bent to pick them up, but her fingers slipped. She sank to her knees, silent tears slipping down her face. The laughter of the children was loud, but the human only heard her silence. That silence was louder than anything else. It screamed of years without kindness, of nights spent alone, of mornings without hope. He crouched down near his tools, pretending to check them, but his eyes stayed on her, watching every movement. He could feel the moment pulling tighter, the tension building like a storm ready to break. The girl pressed the broken flowers against her chest. Her shoulders shook. She whispered again, this time louder, "Why can't I play too?" Her voice was not meant to be heard, but the human heard it, and in that instant, his heart broke for her. The villagers kept whispering, their voices buzzing like angry bees. Some said she deserved her fate. Some said it was dangerous to show her kindness. Some said nothing at all, choosing silence as their weapon. But the human thought differently. He thought of her trembling voice, of her silver eyes filled with tears. He thought of the cruelty of a crowd that laughed while one child stood alone. He knew something had to change. The girl stood again, wiping her cheeks quickly. She tried to straighten her back to hide her pain, but the human could see the cracks in her strength. The whispers followed her like chains, wrapping tighter and tighter around her, and the human, standing in the middle of those whispers, felt the chains pressing against him too. He had not spoken yet. He had not acted, but inside him a choice was forming. Would he stay silent like the others, or would he break the unwritten rule of the village? The answer would come soon, for the girl's pain could no longer remain hidden, and the human's silence could no longer last. Something was about to change. In that lonely field where whispers had ruled for too long. The day was cloudy, and the wind carried the smell of rain. The children still gathered on the field, chasing their ball. Their voices rose above the whispering trees, filling the village air with laughter. The alien girl stood again at the same place, her eyes fixed on the game. Her silver eyes shone like quiet pools of longing. She held no flowers this time. Her hands were empty, her chest heavy. The whispers had not stopped, they never stopped. Mothers pulled their children close. Fathers folded their arms, shaking their heads. The girl heard every cruel word, but she stayed, because hope was stubborn inside her. Maybe today would be different. Maybe today someone would call her name. The human worker was there too. He had finished fixing a broken wheel near the gate, but instead of leaving, he leaned on his tools and watched. His eyes kept drifting toward the girl. The memory of her whispered question still echoed in his ears. Why can't I play too? Then it happened. The ball bounced wrong, rolled too far, and came to rest at her feet again. The children froze, their eyes locked on her. Silence fell heavy. The villagers stopped talking. Even the traders paused. The girl looked down at the ball, her heart pounded. She could feel the weight of all their eyes. Her hands trembled. For one heartbeat, she thought, this is my chance. But then came the cruel voice. Don't touch it, one boy shouted again. His words cut through the silence like a knife. The others laughed, mocking her before she even moved. Her shoulders slumped, her chest ached. Slowly she bent down. Her small hands brushing the ball, she did not kick it. She only pushed it softly back toward them. Her eyes never lifted. The laughter rose again, sharp and merciless. But this time the laughter was not the last sound. A new voice broke the silence, calm but firm. You could have asked her to join. The words came from the human. His voice carried across the field. Every head turned toward him. His eyes were steady, his jaw set. He looked not at the children, but at the girl. The crowd stiffened. Parents exchanged uneasy glances. Some frowned, some whispered. The girl froze. Her breath caught in her throat. No one had ever spoken for her. Not once, not ever. The human stepped forward. His boots pressed into the dirt. His shadow stretched across the field. He walked until he stood near her. The ball still rested on the ground between them. He crouched down and picked it up. His hands large and steady, he looked at her. And then he did something no one expected. He smiled. Do you want to play? He asked softly. His voice carried warmth, not pity. Not command, just kindness. The girl's silver eyes widened, her lips parted. But no sound came out. She trembled. She looked at the children, at the villagers, at the human. Her heart screamed yes, but fear held her tongue. The crowd whispered louder now. He's inviting her. That's not allowed. He doesn't understand. He'll bring trouble. The human ignored them. His gaze stayed on her. His hand held the ball, offering it not as a test, but as a gift. You can, he said again, his tone firm now. You should. Her hands shook, slowly, as if fighting the weight of the world. She reached out. Her fingertips brushed the ball. Her breath quickened, her eyes filled with tears. And then, she held it for the first time in her life. The ball was in her hands, not as a mistake, not as a curse, but as an invitation. The children gasped, some shouted no, others stepped back, as if she had done something dangerous. But the human only smiled wider. Now, he said gently, throw it back. Her throat tightened. Her arms trembled. She lifted the ball and threw it. The ball bounced clumsy, rolling to the children. It was nothing special, yet it was everything. The children stared, unsure whether to laugh or cry. The villagers whispered fiercely, anger and shock mixing together, but the girl, she smiled. It was small, fragile, trembling on her lips, but it was real. Her first smile in years, a smile born from kindness, not fear. The human stood tall, his shoulders squared. His eyes scanned the crowd as if daring them to speak. Some villagers looked away. Ashamed, others glared. Their silence was loud. But his choice was louder. The girl clutched her hands together, still feeling the weight of the ball. Her chest rose and fell quickly. Her heart raced. She looked up at him, silver eyes shining with tears. Thank you, she whispered. Her voice was so soft only he heard it. But it was enough. The human gave her a small nod. He knew this was only the beginning. He knew the whispers would grow louder, the anger stronger. But he also knew something had shifted. For in that moment, in that small act, he had broken the silence. He had given her the first kindness she had ever known. And once a seed of kindness is planted, it cannot be undone. The villagers may resist. The children may laugh. The elders may protest. But the girl had smiled, and nothing could erase it. The human looked at her once more before stepping back, his voice steady as he said, tomorrow we'll play again. The whispers roared. The crowd stirred, but deep inside the lonely field, a new story had begun, and for the first time, the alien girl believed she might belong. The next morning, the field was restless. Children gathered again, but their laughter was weaker. Their eyes kept drifting toward the edge where the alien girl stood. Her steps were hesitant, her shoulders tight, but she came anyway, and the human was already waiting. He leaned on the wooden fence, arms crossed, watching her. He gave a small nod when their eyes met. A silent promise, "You are not alone today." The children clutched their ball, whispering among themselves. Some looked angry, some afraid, and others curious. But none dared approach her first. The girl's heart beat fast. She remembered his words. "Tomorrow we'll play again." She wanted to believe them. But fear gnawed inside her. She had broken no law, yet the village treated her as if she had. The villagers gathered too. Parents stood close, whispering to each other. Their voices were sharper than before. "He defies our customs. This will bring trouble." The human does not understand. The human heard them. But he did not care. He stepped forward, his voice steady. "The game is for everyone." The whispers turned into protests. One elder stepped out, his robes dragging on the dust. His eyes burned with authority. He raised his hand and the crowd fell silent. "This girl does not belong," the elder said. His voice cut like iron. "She carries shame in her blood. Our traditions forbid her from joining. It has always been this way." The children lowered their heads. The parents nodded. The rule was spoken, as old as the stones of the village. The girl shrank back. Her silver eyes dropped. Her small hands clenched, her chest ached. She had heard these words all her life. But today they hurt more because for the first time, she had known what kindness felt like, and now it was being stolen again. The human's jaw tightened. He stepped closer to the elder, his boots crunching in the dirt. "A child is still a child," he said firmly. "She laughs, she runs, she smiles. Just like the others, why should she be denied?" Gasps rippled through the crowd. No outsider had ever spoken against the elders. The elder's eyes narrowed. "This is not your village, human. You have no right to challenge our ways." The human's voice did not waver. "Kindness is not owned by one village. It belongs to everyone." The villagers stirred, their whispers rising like a storm. Some agreed with the elder, others felt unease. A mother pulled her son close, her eyes darting with fear. A father frowned, his hand gripping the boy's shoulder. But in the middle of it all, the girl trembled. Her heart battled between hope and fear. She wanted to step forward, to stand beside the human. But the weight of years pushed her down. The elder lifted his staff, striking the ground. "Step away from her, human," he commanded, "or you will be cast out. Our rules are clear. They protect us." The human did not move. His eyes burned with quiet fire. He turned his head slightly, looking at the girl. "Do you want to play?" he asked again gently, as if the elder's words meant nothing. The girl's lips parted, her voice shook. But the words slipped out like a whisper carried by the wind. "Yes." The field froze, every ear caught it, every heart felt it. The elder's face darkened, his voice rose. "She cannot," but before he could finish, the human extended his hand, open and steady. "Then come." The girl stared at his hand. Her own hands trembled. Her chest felt heavy. The crowd's whispers stabbed at her from every side. "Don't. Stay back and she will bring shame." Her silver eyes filled with tears. Her knees felt weak. She wanted to turn away, to hide. But then she remembered his smile yesterday. She remembered the ball in her hands. She remembered her first smile. Slowly, painfully, she lifted her hand. Her fingers stretched, reaching through fear. And at last her hand touched his. The crowd gasped. Some covered their mouths. Some shouted. Some turned away as if lightning had struck. But in that single touch, something broke. Something greater than any rule. The human's hand was warm, steady, unshaken. The girl's hand was cold and trembling. But together they were strong. He looked at her and gave a small nod. "You are not alone," he whispered. The elder's staff shook in his hands. His voice thundered, "You defy us, you break our rules. You dishonor our ways." The human's eyes never left the girl's. His voice was calm but unyielding. "Then your rules are wrong." The silence that followed was heavier than stone. The villagers stared, their beliefs shaken. The children clutched their ball. Too afraid to move, the girl's heart raced. She could not believe it. No one had ever stood against the elders for her. Yet here he was, a human, an outsider standing firm when even her own people would not. Her lips trembled, and then, slowly, her smile returned. Small but stronger than before. The human held her hand tightly, facing the elder without fear, and in that moment, the village felt the first crack in its ancient rules, a crack made not by power but by kindness. The storm of whispers grew louder, but something new was rising beneath them, something unstoppable. The girl was no longer invisible, and the human had made sure of it. The field was different that day. The air felt heavy, the whispers sharper. But something had changed. The alien girl was no longer standing in the shadows. She was standing beside the human, her small hand still remembering the warmth of his. The children clutched their ball uneasily. They looked at her as if she had crossed a forbidden line. Some were angry, some confused, and a few simply curious. The villagers stood around the edges, their faces stiff. Their voices rose and fell in nervous murmurs. The elders had not spoken again, but their silence pressed on everyone. The girl's heart pounded. She felt every eye on her. Every whisper struck her ears like stones. Her chest tightened. Fear tried to pull her back. But the memory of his smile, the memory of his voice saying, "You are not alone," held her in place. The human stepped forward, his voice calm but steady. "A game is meant for everyone." He looked at the children. "Do you have the courage to share it?" The children shuffled their feet. None dared speak. Their eyes flicked to the parents, waiting for permission. The human bent down, picked up the ball, and turned to the girl. "Are you ready?" he asked softly. Her silver eyes widened. Her lips parted, fear and hope battled in her chest. She nodded just once. The human smiled. He tossed the ball gently toward her. She reached out with trembling hands. Her fingers caught it. For one heartbeat she froze, afraid she might drop it, but she held it firm. The crowd gasped. Some whispered in anger, some in shock. But he clapped his hands once. "Good catch." The girl's breath shook. But her lips curved. Her smile was fragile. Trembling, but it was real now, he said gently. "Throw it back to me." Her hands trembled. The ball felt heavier than it should. Her mind screamed with doubt. What if I miss? What if they laugh? What if they call me cursed again? But his eyes steadied her. Calm and sure, she threw. The ball spun awkward, bouncing once before reaching his feet. The children snickered. But before their laughter could rise, he spoke. "Perfect. That's how every game begins." Her eyes widened. Her chest loosened. She could hardly believe his words. He had not mocked her clumsy throw, he had praised it. He picked up the ball and tossed it back again. This time she caught it faster. Her fingers sure, her smile grew. Back and forth they played, each throw clumsy at first. Each catch shaky, but with every exchange, her shoulders straightened. Her hands steadied, her laughter began to rise. And for the first time, her laughter was not hidden. It rang out clear across the field. The children watched. Uncertain, some frowned, some whispered, but one boy stepped forward. His curiosity stronger than his fear. "Can I join?" he asked quietly. The villagers stirred. Parents shook their heads, warning him, but the human smiled. Of course, the ball passed from the girl to the human, then to the boy. The boy caught it, laughed nervously, and threw it back. The girl's heart leapt. She had been included. Even if just for a moment, the game grew. Slowly, step by step, more children joined. The circle widened. The ball moved from hand to hand, from laugh to laugh. And though some parents protested, their children could not resist the joy of the game. The girl ran, she stumbled once. But the human cheered louder than anyone. "That's it. You're doing it." Her face lit with a smile so bright that even the whispers could not dim it. But the elders stood at the edge, their eyes hard, their voices low. "This is dangerous," one muttered. "The rules are broken," another hissed. The human ignored them, his voice lifted with encouragement. His every word building the girl higher. For the first time she was not invisible. For the first time she was not cursed. She was simply a child playing, running, laughing, just like the others. But the whispers did not end. They grew sharper, angrier. Some villagers folded their arms. Glaring, others shook their heads, afraid. The game continued, laughter clashing against anger, hope fighting against fear. The girl caught the ball again, her chest heaving. Her silver eyes shone with tears, but this time they were tears of joy. She looked at the human, her lips trembling with a smile. "Thank you," she whispered. But this time her voice carried further. Loud enough for more than just him. The villagers heard it, the children heard it. And silence fell for a heartbeat. The human gave her a firm nod. His eyes told her what words could not. "You are enough. You belong, But as the game grew louder, the elders' patience thinned. Their staff struck the ground once more. The sound boomed like thunder. The children froze. The ball rolled to a stop, the laughter died. The elder's voice rose, heavy and sharp. Enough, this game breaks our laws. This must end now, the crowd held its breath. The children stepped back, parents pulled them close. The circle dissolved. The girl stood frozen, the joy slipping from her eyes. Her heart pounded, her smile trembled. Would they take it all away again? The human stepped closer, his voice steady but low. It's only a game, but in the elder's eyes it was more. It was rebellion. It was defiance. The girl looked between them, her chest tight. She had tasted happiness for the first time. Would it vanish so quickly? The human's hand brushed her shoulder, firm and steady. His voice whispered for her alone, "Trust me. We're not done yet." Her silver eyes widened. Her heart steadied. For the first time she believed it. The game of trust had begun, and it was only the beginning. The field that once rang with laughter now felt like a courtroom. The children stood frozen, the ball resting in the dirt. Parents pulled their little ones close, fear and anger spreading in the crowd. The alien girl stood still, her silver eyes wide, her hands trembling. Her first taste of joy threatened to vanish again. The elders moved forward, their robes dragging against the ground. Their staffs struck the dirt one after another. Like drums of judgment, the crowd parted in silence as they came. The oldest among them, with eyes sharp as knives, raised his hand. "This must end," he declared. His voice cut through the air like thunder. "Our rules are not toys. Our traditions are not games." The girl shrank back. Her heart pounded, her smile trembled. For a moment she thought it was all over. She thought they would send her away again, back to the shadows, back to loneliness. But the human stepped in front of her, his back straight, his jaw tight, his voice steady. It was only a game. A child should not be punished for smiling. Gasps rippled through the villagers. Never before had an outsider spoken so boldly against the elders. Some clutched their chests, others shook their heads. The whispers began again. "He is foolish. He will be punished. He does not know what he risks." The elder slammed his staff against the ground. "This girl carries shame in her blood. She is forbidden from joining. You break our laws, human, and in doing so, you insult us all." The human did not move, his eyes locked with the elders. His voice firm, "Then your laws are cruel. They chain a child for something she never chose." The villagers stirred uneasily. Some agreed with the elder. Some felt their hearts twist with doubt. A mother's eyes softened as she looked at the trembling girl. But she dared not speak. The elder's face hardened. "You do not understand. Her family's disgrace poisoned this village. If we allow her to walk freely among us, she will bring ruin again." The human shook his head, his voice louder now. "The only ruin here is the one you create. By turning your backs on her, you punish her for blood she did not spill, for crimes she never committed." The girl's breath caught. Her silver eyes filled with tears. No one had ever defended her like this. Her own people had let her suffer in silence, but this human, this outsider, stood like a wall between her and the storm. The elder raised his staff again. "Leave, human, or face exile. You will not decide how we live." The human's voice dropped low, calm but sharp. "Exile me if you wish, but I will not step aside. She deserves the same as any other child. She deserves to laugh, to play, to belong." The crowd erupted into whispers again, louder than before. Parents argued, some shouting that the rules must stand, others saying the girl was only a child. Children tugged at their mother's arms, asking why she could not play. Their innocent voices cut deeper than any argument. The girl stood behind him, her chest tight. She wanted to speak, but fear clutched her throat. She could not find the words, but her eyes shone with hope, fragile yet bright. The elders leaned close together, whispering among themselves. Plotting, their voices were sharp, their eyes cold. Finally, the oldest elder raised his staff again. "If you continue, human, you will make yourself an enemy of this village. We will cast you out. We will forbid anyone from offering you shelter. You will have nothing here." The human's answer came without hesitation. "Then I will still choose kindness." The silence that followed was heavy. The villagers stared, some in awe, some in fear. The elder's face twisted with fury. His staff struck the ground once more. "So be it," he growled. "If you stand with her, you stand against us all." The girl's knees shook. Her heart screamed, her hands clutched together. She thought he would step back, that he would abandon her under such heavy threat, but he did not move. Instead, he turned his head slightly, just enough for her to hear, "You are not alone. Not anymore." Her tears spilled. She covered her mouth to stop the sob that rose. For the first time in her life, someone had chosen her over the whole world. The villagers' whispers grew louder. Some argued with the elders, some defended tradition, some turned their eyes away in shame. The children, confused, looked from the human to the girl. Their ball still rested on the ground, waiting, silent. The air crackled with tension, a storm of voices clashing, but in the middle of it all, the girl felt something new inside her, strength. The human's courage was like a fire, and some of its warmth had reached her. She straightened slowly, her silver eyes meeting the elder's glare. Her voice shook, but she spoke. "I only wanted to smile. Is that so wrong?" The crowd hushed. The question pierced deeper than any argument. The elder's mouth opened, but no words came for the first time. The silence belonged not to the girl, but to him. The human placed a hand gently on her shoulder, steady and warm. "No," he said firmly, loud enough for all to hear. "It is not wrong," and in that moment the field changed again. The whispers no longer carried only anger, they carried doubt, they carried shame. The elders still burned with fury, but their power was no longer absolute. A seed of defiance had been planted, and it had taken root in the hearts of those who watched. The angry elders had drawn their line, but the human had not stepped back. And the girl had spoken for herself at last. The game was no longer just a game. It had become a battle of hearts, and the fight was far from over. The village field was no longer just a place for games. It had become the center of a storm. The elders stood in a line, their staffs heavy in the dirt, their eyes hard, their voices sharp. Around them the villagers whispered, some in anger, some in doubt. And at the heart of it all stood the alien girl and the human. His hand rested steady on her shoulder. Her silver eyes shimmered with tears, but her feet did not move. For the first time, she stood her ground. The eldest elder raised his staff high. "This ends now. The rules have been broken. Tradition must not fall to outsiders." The villagers stirred, some nodded, others shook their heads. Their voices clashed in heated whispers. "She should leave." "No, she is only a child." "The human has no right." The girl trembled. Her heart pounded. Her hands shook at her sides. But when she looked up, she saw his calm eyes, steady and unafraid. The human's voice rang out clear and firm. "Rules that destroy kindness are not worth keeping. A child deserves joy. A child deserves a smile. If tradition cannot allow that, then tradition is broken." The words spread like fire through the crowd. Some gasped, some lowered their heads in shame, and some clenched their fists in anger. The elders thundered, "You speak as if you are one of us. But you are nothing here." The human turned, kneeling slightly so his eyes met the girl's. His voice softened, but it carried to all. "You are not nothing. You are enough." Her chest shook. A sob rose. But it was not from pain. It was from hope. He stood tall again. His voice grew stronger. "I call her my friend, and I will stand with her. No matter what you say." The villagers froze. Shock spread across their faces, for no one in living memory had ever called her that. "Friend?" The girl's lips parted. Her silver eyes widened. A tear slipped free, but then her mouth curved into a smile. Small at first, trembling, but real. That smile silenced even the loudest whispers. It was not pity, not weakness. It was the first true smile she had given in years. The elders shifted uneasily. Their staffs trembled in their hands for all their power. They could not erase what had just happened. The children, watching closely, whispered among themselves. "She smiled," one said. "She looks happy," another whispered. And then slowly one child stepped forward. Picking up the ball, he held it in his small hands, glanced at his parents, then at the elders. Fear flickered in his eyes, but then he looked at the girl, her smile still trembling but shining. Without a word, he tossed the ball gently toward her. The crowd gasped. The elders shouted, "Stop!" But it was too late. The ball rolled into her hands. Her breath caught, her fingers closed around it, and her smile grew wider, stronger. The human clapped once loudly. "There it is. That's how it begins." The children shifted. Some laughed nervously, some smiled. Soon another child joined. Then another, one by one, the circle formed again. The ball moved from hand to hand. The game had returned. The elders struck their staffs on the ground, but their thunder was weaker now. their voices drowned beneath the sound of children laughing. The villagers stood torn. Some shook their heads, but others began to soften. A mother lowered her hand from her son's shoulder. A father released his daughter's arm. Slowly, the weight of fear began to crack. The girl's laughter rang out across the field, clear and bright. It was no longer hidden, no longer fragile, it was free. She turned to the human, her silver eyes glowing with joy, her voice steady. "I am happy. I never thought I would say that, but I am happy." The human smiled back, his heart lighter than it had been in years. "That's all I wanted, for you to smile." The elders, defeated, lowered their staffs, their faces grim. They had not lost to power but to kindness, and they knew the village would never be the same. The crowd's whispers softened into silence. Some looked ashamed, some looked thoughtful, but none could deny what they had seen. A child once cursed had smiled. A human outsider had stood unshaken, and the village had witnessed a rule break. Not with force, but with simple kindness. The girl's smile did not fade. She held the ball close to her chest for a moment, then tossed it back into the circle. Her laughter rose again, and this time it was joined by others for the first time. She was not watching from the shadows. She was part of the game, part of the laughter, part of the joy. The human stepped back, arms crossed, watching her run. His lips curved with quiet pride. He knew the struggle was not over. The elders would not forget. The whispers might return. But something greater had begun, a reason to smile. And sometimes, one smile is enough to change everything.